Hello, hello, hello. I am Grumm of the Dork Side of the Ring podcast, and this weekend's All Elite Wrestling pay-per-view Revolution is their first pay-per-view of the year 2023, and the card looks really good. Unlike the previous pay-per-views of theirs, it seems quality is not quantity, as this card only has 8 matches on the main card, which partly is due to the fact that the main event, the world title match, is an Iron Man match, an hour-long Iron Man match at that, but still, I'm going to celebrate that win. That's a good one. So I'm going to run down the card, and I'm going to give you the backstory for each matches, predict the winner, and offer some little fun prop bets to go along with the lines thanks to bettingonline.ag. First up, Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in a no-holds-barred match. Now, it's been 9 months since Christian had turned his back on Jungle Boy, and since then has been using Jungle Boy's longtime partner, Luchasaurus, to mess with Jungle Boy, making disparaging comments about Jungle Boy's dead father, and just flat out attacking and taunting Jungle Boy at almost every breathing second that Jungle Boy has on this earth. After beating Luchasaurus at Full Gear 2022, Jungle Boy felt ready to move on with his life, with his career, especially after chasing Christian Cage out of his life for good, seemingly. But that would be not the case when Christian Cage returned just a few weeks ago, once again prepared to derail Jungle Boy's entire career. Now back, Christian aims to put Jungle Boy in his place, along with his generation in their place, and move forward with his goal of milking the wrestling business for everything he can, while Jungle Boy simply just wants to put Christian Cage down for good. I think this is very easily a Jungle Boy win. I'd be shocked if Christian Cage ended up winning this at all. BetOnline.ag's got Jungle Boy at minus 1,000, so don't put money on it unless you have a lot of money to burn off the 0.1% chance that Christian Cage wins this for some reason, continuing this feud well past its expiration date, if you ask me. But either way, the prop bet that I got for this is over under 5.5 chairs used, and I'm going to be taking the over because I think we're going to get like a spot where Jungle Boy or Christian Cage just reach under the ring and starts throwing them all in, like making it rain, but making it rain steel chairs. That's a little bit more dangerous, and I don't know, maybe he grabs like 17 of them like that. You can't do that and then not use them. So I think that I'll take the over there. Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho, with the Jericho Appreciation Society completely barred from ringside. After failing to capture both the Diamond Ring and the AEW World Title at Winter is Coming, Ricky Starks was approached by Chris Jericho to sit under his learning tree, much like Danny Garcia and Sammy Guevara have, and become the latest member of the Jericho Appreciation Society. Ricky rightfully declined and challenged Jericho to a match that Ricky would win. And much would be the case for Ricky going forward against the Jericho Appreciation Society for the last 2 months, because he would beat Jake Hager, Danny Garcia, and even Matt Maynard and Angelo Parker in a gauntlet match. His lone blemish, though, being a tag match alongside Action Andretti against Jericho and Sammy Guevara, which that's not on Ricky, that's on Action, either way. All the while, Jericho would be telling the world that Ricky Starks' experiment is over. Something that Starks didn't quite believe. Starks would fail to secure a rematch against Chris Jericho, though, until he goaded him into one, and it wasn't even just a regular match. It's a match where the entirety of the Jericho Appreciation Society is barred from ringside, making it a true one-on-one match at Revolution. As far as a prediction, I think most of me just wants the result that will get Ricky away from Jericho before Jericho lulls Ricky into another 4 months of a feud that goes nowhere for either of them. But a part of me just can't help but be a victim of wrestle brain rot. And I think that Action Andretti, not being a member of Jericho Appreciation Society, being an ally of Ricky Starks, is going to come down and join JAS and help Jericho secure the win, continuing this feud for some reason. I'm not looking forward to it. But hey, look, Betting Online has Ricky at minus 300, but it's a Jericho at plus 200 that I just really like. I couldn't think of a nice and clever, fun prop, but until I remember that it's Chris Jericho and it's AEW, and they love to play out Jericho's entire theme song, seemingly. So over-under for Jericho's entrance I'm setting it at 2 minutes and 35 seconds, which I will take the over for myself for the fun of it. AEW World Tag Team Championship match between the champions, the Guns, taking on the Acclaim, taking on Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, taking on Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Wow, that's a mouthful. But here, where do we start? Back in the summer, though, the Guns, or the Ass Boys as Danhausen affectionately calls them, and the Acclaim had a falling out, as Billy Gunn had sided with the Acclaimed over his own sons. The Guns, on the other hand, would join Stokely Hathaway's firm before having a short feud with FTR, earning a win over arguably the best tag team of the year 2022. While the Guns did that, the Acclaimed would go on to win over the crowd at All Out, to the point of seemingly forcing a rematch against Swerve and Our Glory at Grand Slam, where they'd win the AEW World Tag Team titles. They would go on to defend the titles against the likes of Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee at Full Gear, FTR shortly after that, and Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal twice in 1 week. The Acclaimed would eventually lose the titles to the Guns just last month, and while that was all going on, Jeff and his associates would take offense to Danhausen, Orange Cassidy, and the rest of the best friends, and they took that offense to the best friends themselves in person, as Jeff and Satnam Singh would beat Trent and Chuck Taylor on Rampage, but would lose to Orange Cassidy, Billy Gunn, and the Acclaimed a few weeks later. Now you're starting to see where they're all starting to intertwine, because a week after Jeff and Jay qualified for the Revolution Tag Team title match, winning a Battle Royal, Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, taking the place of Trent and Chuck, did so the same. The TLDR of this is the Guns are here because they're the champs. The Acclaimed are here because they used to be the champs. Jay and Jeff are here because they won a Battle Royal. Orange and Danhausen are here because they won a Battle Royal. You get it? All that backstory and everything. I just think the Guns win here so that FTR has a heel champion to chase with some backstory. I don't think the same could be said if Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal would win, but I wouldn't mind it. Big fan of Jeff Jarrett. Love it. But this match is going to probably be really good, really fun, wacky Memphis wrestling nonsense. And it's going to be great. And look, betting online seems to agree with me here, because they have the Guns the favorite to win, followed by the Acclaimed, then Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal third, and Orange Cassidy and Danhausen in last. The Guns are sitting at -400, so not worth it on its own, but maybe in a parlay if you want to. I don't really know. But I do know that there's a fun prop that I think is a little fun, little thing to... one of those little fantasy booking ideas, but it's whether or not Billy Gunn rejoins his sons and takes their side. They've gone and proved themselves as their own, and he's probably proud of them. Why not rejoin them? So I think he does, though. I'm going to say yes to that, but I don't think that's like the odd-on favorite, though. I think it very much keep the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn together. But hey, if you want a way to get the Guns and the Acclaimed to have a proper feud over the title after this, it would probably be Billy Gunn turning on them. But look, also though, we've got Jeff Jarrett in a no disqualification match, so I couldn't come up with a responsible line, because he's going to smash all the guitars over all their heads. So I don't know, take whatever it is, take the over, because that boy gonna have some guitars to smash. This is my first video doing these types of predictions and recaps and everything, because normally I do podcasts, and you might be listening to the Dork Side of the Ring podcast weekly. It drops every Monday, where me and my friends get together and I show them some of the wrestling's wackier things or more embarrassing things. So this is kind of new. So if you're enjoying what you're doing here, you let me know with the old YouTube brother handshake of leaving a like, subscribing, and commenting below what your predictions are for Revolution. Up next, the TNT Championship, Samoa Joe, the champion, defending against Wardlow. Once a meaty companion, now turned a monstrous foe, Wardlow eyes to regain his TNT Championship from the King of Television, Samoa Joe. Wardlow's returning for revenge, but not just for being betrayed or losing his championship, but also for the humiliation of having his hair cut on national television while unconscious and unable to do anything about it. And Wardlow's made it a point that wherever Joe goes, he will follow him, even if it means to the depths of hell. And for Joe, Wardlow is just another young threat aiming to take his throne as the King of Television. I think a simple physical match between two beefy boys, and I think Joe loses the title and Wardlow goes on a run with the TNT title for a good while. I think Wardlow's the guy to kind of put a stop on these. I mean, you look at it, he had probably a longer reign than most, but you put a guy like him taking on all challengers, that's good money for television. And the odds are heavily in Wardlow's favor at -1,000, so not fun to bet on that. But how about this for a prop, though? Over under 3.5 power bombs for Wardlow, as in him delivering the power bombs. Because given the story, he looks like he would aim to punish Joe with many power bombs. But I will, however, take the under, because I don't know if Joe is just willing to take that many more than 3. I think 3 was going to be, do the third one, go for the pin, under. However, I could also see him going 4 or 5 and making it emphatic after, a brutal match for about 10, 12 minutes. In a trios match for the AEW World Trios Championship, we've got the reigning champions, the Elite, taking on the House of Black. And in probably the least built match at the time I wrote this script, the Elite have spent most of their time back from the company mandated vacation, wrestling the Death Triangle, winning the Best of 7 series to win back the World Trios Champions. Meanwhile, the House of Black returned right around Thanksgiving, brutalized and terrorized anyone and everyone, including breaking up the friendship between Ortiz and Eddie Kingston, to the point where now Eddie Kingston quit AEW, showed up on Ring of Honor. He's feeling rejuvenated. Good for him. Love to see it. Love to see it. But it wasn't until recently that House of Black had decided to turn their attention to the Elite, who continue to defend their titles against all comers, anybody, really. And in doing so, giving them a warning of what's to come at Revolution. I've gone back and forth here because I'm trying to figure out who wins this, because I can see both teams walking out of San Francisco with the trios titles, but I do think there's far more fun in the House of Black being the champions, as it's new, but also they're just better characters, but I didn't say that out loud. However, given the short build and not much other than just some really good matches for their reign, I can see the Elite winning and at least going to Double or Nothing with the titles and maybe a better fleshed out story, perhaps. But in this case, I'll go what I kind of want to see happen and what I think is going to happen can kind of coincide here. And I think the House of Black take this, and they're your new AEW Trios Champions. And I'm not the only one kind of going back and forth, it seems. I've looked at this line a couple times, and it's gone back once or twice. And betting online has the Elite at -210 and the House of Black at +160. So if you're thinking like me, hey, +160, that's not bad. Put a tenner on that. That's 16. That's not bad. Fun prop though, blinding spots, because you got the mist from House of Black and you got the hairspray from Brandon Cutler of the Elite. I'm going over 2.5. I think we get 3. I think we get 1 from Black, 1 from Cutler. I think we get 1 from Julia Hart. I think that would kind of be cool, where she sprays, like Cutler gets like Buddy Matthews with 1. Like I think it's like bang bang bang. So I think that'll be pretty cool. That's where I'm going. So let me in the comments below. Let me know how you're thinking. My plus, over under 2.5. Yeah, 2.5. I was about to say 3.5. Over under 2.5 blinding spots. I'm counting the mist and the spray. In our top non-title match of the night, Jon Moxley taking on Hangman Adam Page in a Texas death match. And it's Hangman, not Hang Kid, because Adam Page has been on a path to correct this perception of some have of him, that he's just a kid compared to the real men of the sport, or he's not a killer like he should be, like other. Whether that's because of his loyalty to his friends, or the fact that he isn't afraid of being vulnerable and admitting his feelings, Page really just finds himself face to face with someone that people refer to as the ace of AEW, Jon Moxley. And this all started when Page challenged Moxley for the AEW World title in October, that ended when Adam Page took a stiff lariat that knocked him silly, gave himself a concussion, and ended the match a little bit earlier than they had planned. And since his return from that concussion, Adam Page has kind of made it a point to Moxley to understand that he is the man that Adam Page says he is, going so far as taking every altercation alone, despite Moxley having Blackpool Combat Club not too far away, even though he is by himself. For Moxley, though, he's willing to see how far Hangman is willing to prove himself, because he knows that what it takes to be at the top. And for Hangman, the Texas Death Match is just the match that will prove to Moxley and to everyone else that he's not just some kid. I see Hangman walking out of an absolutely bloody war. And when I say walking out, I mean he's being held up by his friends. And don't be surprised if you see like this good old-fashioned babyface respect handshake thing either. I mean, we had it last year with Moxley and Brian Danielson, but it'll mean a little bit more here because people look at Moxley as this. I mean, he's been doing this at this level for 10 plus years now, and Hangman, his second half of 2022 was not ideal for him or fans of him, but I think this will be a good way to get him prepped and ready to go to challenge MJF at Double or Nothing for the title, because that's where I think this goes. Betting wise, Adam Page is at minus 600, so it's not worth a bet, and I don't think Moxley wins to where like putting action on plus 350 is worth it. But hey, you do you. Shout out to my friends in Lockdown for this prop bet, though. It's based on the game that we've played many times during Moxley's matches, and it's called When Does Moxley Bleed? So this time, though, we often go with like ranges like 4, 4.5, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, depending on the match or who it is. It's earlier or later. But in this match, I'm going to take the under. I'm going to set the line at 4.5, and I'm going to set the under before Moxley bleeds. I think he's actually the first to bleed. I think that's kind of the story they're telling, is Hangman being this idea of a man's wrestler that Moxley likes to talk about, the violence and the brutality and, the pride in being that kind of violent. So I think Moxley bleeds pretty early into this match. This match actually will be my favorite match of the night, I think. Going into it, it's my favorite match of the night. Up next, the women's world title match between Jamie Hayter defending her title against Saraya and Ruby Soho. Saraya returned to the wrestling world back in September at Grand Slam and immediately was programmed with Britt Baker, who Saraya would defeat at Full Gear 2022. However, that same night, Jamie Hayter would defeat Toni Storm to win the AEW women's title, which would put the four on a path that would follow for the next couple months. After the new year, though, the sides of the story would flip as Britt and Jamie would take on the roles of AEW's homegrown women division stars and call out Saraya and Toni Storm for being opportunists and using what talent Britt and Jamie had built for their own egos. Saraya and Toni would then kind of embrace the role and become the new mean girls of AEW with spray paint effects now. The story, though, has kind of fallen flat in spite of the addition of Ruby Soho, who is coming off of a hot win over KJ in a brutal and bloody tag team match earlier this year. And Ruby finds herself in the middle of the issue, being recruited by both, while just wanting the world title for herself. I have a bad feeling about this. Not because I think it's not going to be a good match, but I am worried that Jamie's momentum, which has been kind of slowing at an alarming rate since winning the title, since being put into this feud directly, I think there's a chance that Saraya, with her star power and her recognition, sneaks away with a title that maybe you don't want to see. But I just don't think we're subjected to more of this kind of involvement in the story for her. And I hope, though. So I'm going to hope that my worries are just worries, not impending reality. I'm going to say the Hater wins and moves on with anything for the betterment of herself. Fortunately for betting online, they don't do feelings of worries and dread. They got Jamie Hayter to win minus 1250. However, they do have Saraya at 500, and I do think that's worth maybe a little bit of money. I have one fun prop for you, though, and it's over under 1.5 spray paint spots. I think this goes over, so I'm going to count this as two different attempts at different points in the match. So I think we get a successful one for Saraya, and we get one that's unsuccessful that costs someone the match. We've got Toni Storm getting spray paint on her butt to do her move. I can see Saraya spray painting somebody. I can see, it's no disqualification, so I can see that spot happening again. Maybe there's some more. Also, I think I'm going to count this within the actual bell-to-bell match, I think I can see Saraya or the winner spray painting whoever they lost. Yeah, I was thinking about maybe does Ruby join a side, but I mean, I feel like it's obvious at this point that like she's going to pick a side at the end of this. So don't know. And finally, your main event of the evening, a 60-minute Iron Man match for the AEW World Championship between Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Bryan Danielson. It's simple as that, folks. After finally winning the big one and rebranding the AEW World title to a stylish and fitting Big Burberry belt, MJF saw a fit to remind everyone who he is as he blasted William Regal, the man who decided to aid MJF to teach his students one final lesson, I guess, in the back of his surgically repaired neck, leaving Regal lying face down in the middle of the ring. Of all of his students, though, the one who took the greatest offense to this was his longest taught one in Bryan Danielson, who now wants to avenge his former mentor, fallen mentor, by exposing MJF and take the title off of him, but not necessarily. It's weird. Look, in an effort to distinguish himself from the previous world champions, though, MJF made sure that Danielson was going to earn this #1 contendership by getting wins. Danielson would defeat the likes of Bandito, Takeshita, Timmy Thatcher, Brian Cage, and Roosh. Love my guy. All while Maxwell would increasingly become more and more desperate for his opponents to injure and maim Danielson, not necessarily beat him. Over the course of the story, though, it's felt less and less about Danielson wanting to avenge his fallen mentor and more about the AEW World Champion, who is the guy who gets in a car accident and puts the passenger in the driver's so he doesn't get in trouble despite him driving the car. That kind of guy. They turned him into the doubted babyface position and having to prove himself. So, weird. And then rather than just make Danielson chase a dastardly chicken shit heel champion. I mean, the go home show, Danielson saying, you know what, you don't deserve that title, but you do deserve that your fiance left you. I mean, I know Danielson likes to play this whole, like, I'm still a heel, guys, but, like, how does that, he shouldn't be the heel in this story, because he's not the heel. Anyway, thankfully, though, there were a couple spots where it got more of, hey, heel champion avoiding a babyface challenger, and now the match is official, and it's happening. I'm excited. I think MJF is walking out, proving himself to be a bona fide stud in the ring, and an unquestioned champion in kayfabe sense. I really think it's going to be a good match that MJF more than holds his end of the bargain. Danielson's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I think MJF is really good. I think because he doesn't wrestle a lot, and because you see all of his opponents wrestling and you see them week to week and you don't see him, and people kind of devalue his ability. That's a point for later. Simple as put, the guy can go. The guy's going to go for an hour. I don't think it's worth betting on this because Bet Online has it at minus 5,000 at the time that I'm doing this, and Danielson at plus 900, which they think Christian has a better shot of winning, or I guess more enticing. Anyways, look, I don't think there's a chance in hell, though, that Danielson wins, so it's not even worth the bet. I will give you a couple prop bets at the main event. I do have a couple prop bets for you. I got 2. 3.5 falls, over under. I think this match, Iron Man match, they're fun because there's multiple falls. You don't win just because you got the first fall or whatnot. It's as many falls as you can get in 60 minutes. 3.5. Most of them tend to go, 3-1, 3-2. Some of them go 2-1 though. I think under. In fact, I don't think there's going to be more than one, but I wouldn't be surprised. And over/under, the other over/under I have, the other prop bet I have for you is over/under on non-pinfall submission falls. So DQ, count out, knockout, pass out. I've gone back and forth on this because MJF is making a way, or has a way of making his promos feed into his match, and he's talked about a couple times now putting others in position to take the fall for his actions, and I could honestly see this being a clean match with no DQs or countouts, but I could also see if I think there's only going to be one, I can see the lone one being MJF framing Danielson and getting a fall via DQ. So I'm going to take but I'm going to take the under. I think maybe it's better for the story is if MJF just wins up straight 1-0 with a pinfall. So there you have it. AEW's Revolution happening this weekend, March 5th, 8 o'clock from San Francisco. I am Grumm. Check out the Dork Side of the Ring podcast, Dork Side of the Ring podcast, not Dark Side, Dork Side of the Ring podcast. You can find it here on YouTube. You can find it where you find your podcast. Leave a like, leave a subscribe, leave a comment. I want to hear what your predictions are for Revolution. I will be back for WrestleMania. I got a lot of content coming for WrestleMania. And in the meantime, enjoy the Dork Side of the Ring podcast. I'll see you guys.